The White House says Israel has agreed to 4-hour daily humanitarian pauses in fighting in northern Gaza. This would be the first humanitarian respite for millions of Palestinians who have been besieged by Israel in the enclave since the Hamas attack on the 7th of October. SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease joins us now. Sherwin, good evening. Share the highlights of how this was agreed to.
Yeah, breaking news, Iman. We understand it happened in a call between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Joe Biden. John Kirby, the White House National Security spokesperson, releasing some information in that regard in the last hour. He says it'll be a 4-hour daily pause that has been agreed to in those negotiations. As you correctly point out, this is the first predictable respite in terms of humanitarian relief for the people that have been besieged in Gaza. Of course, this is not a humanitarian ceasefire. That remains the broad request from the international community, including the United Nations, given the extreme need that we know is on the ground, Iman. Just a few figures: 1.5 million people in Gaza are internally displaced, 720,000 sheltering at UNRWA schools, 122,000 at hospitals, churches and public buildings, a further 131,000 sheltering at UNRWA, at non-UNRWA facilities. Stefan Dujarric, the Secretary General spokesperson, a short time ago talking about how just yesterday some 50,000 people have been migrating from the northern parts of Gaza to the south due to the ground operation, the ground offensive that has been instituted by Israel, and the continued bombardments is just not very safe. And so this 4-hour daily pause that has been announced by the White House is very much for those northern areas that have been really caught up in the midst of this conflict. You'll know that the Rafah border crossing has been an area where some humanitarian aid in the south has been able to enter. Over 700 trucks have now made it there. But let me give you one figure that might astound you, Iman. The number should be at around 13,500 trucks, given the period we're talking about. Before October 7th, some 450 plus trucks of carrying humanitarian aid would enter the Gaza enclave on a daily basis. To date, in 1 month, that figure is at around 735. So that really does talk to the huge disparity we are seeing here in terms of needs being met on the ground. We get figures from the United Nations that say just the amount of water that has been taken into Gaza since October 7th would only reach 4% of the population. So the news here is that we're going to get 4-hour daily pauses from today, according to the White House, and the advance notice to be given will be 3 hours in advance of the 4-hour daily pauses. So, you know, this is a work in progress, no doubt. The White House calls it a significant first step. But the big ask remains, Iman, a humanitarian ceasefire from the UN Secretary General, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the government of South Africa, and many other entities around the world.
As you point out, Sherwin, you know, prior to this event, 500 trucks daily passing through Rafah. Now, as you say, collectively 750, far short of what's required in the area. And did they share the rationale behind the 4 hours? You made the point about people migrating from northern Gaza into the south. Were there any other reasons given? Certainly not for humanitarian aid to come in, as you've just shared.
Yeah, sounds like they've picked a number, right? We don't really have the details about the discussions between the White House. And remember, Iman, this comes in the broader context of those three-way, four-way negotiations that have been happening between the Qataris, the White House, the Israelis, and possibly Egypt in certain circumstances around a possible 3-day pause. Just before this news broke of the 4-hour daily pauses, we had been reporting on possible negotiations towards a 3-day pause in fighting that would allow all sorts of humanitarian relief. Remember, due to Israel's bombardments and the destruction that has been wrought in particular in northern Gaza, aid that has managed to enter the enclave has not been able to reach those northern territories due to the damaged infrastructure. Trucks can't move north due to rubble that populates vast areas in the enclave. So, to your question, we don't know the details as to why this why they've landed on 4-hour daily pauses with 3 hours notice every day, because in the broader scheme of things here, the talk has been around a significantly longer pauses. 3 days is what the White House had been negotiating when this number now dropped. And of course, the bigger ask still remains a sustainable ceasefire here, Iman, because the needs on the ground are just being exacerbated every day.